All right, let me set things up here. All right, got everything set up, and we're going to be live today talking about music from 1988, musical releases, in vinyl, maybe some CDs. But no DVDs or Blu-rays. So if you're going to show a soundtrack, please keep it to a vinyl copy. We are a vinyl channel. So, and hello, James. And let me go through a few things before we get started. Yeah, all right. So tonight, 5 o'clock Central Time. Maybe I should wait for some more people to join. It's just you and I right now, James, I think. But anyway, we are going to be live tonight with the Gunkles. So Vinyl Community Gunkles will be doing their first live stream this evening, 5 o'clock Central Time. It's gonna be off the hook. So you may want to, check that out and tell people about it. And let's see what else is going on during that live stream. Yesterday was a record crawl. Some people from the vinyl community here in Chicago, we all had a meetup and we went to some record stores. And fairly new record stores that have been only opened within like the last half year or so. So there was myself, there was Mike from Hub Tunes, Logan from oh damn, the channel is like escaping me at the moment. Man, it's a good thing it's just two of us right now, because then gives me a chance to remember what Murmur Than Hell. That's right, Murmur Than Hell. Hello, Ed. He was with us, and Vance from Zep Pearl. And yeah, we got just a couple people here joining the stream right now, Ed. So we may wait a few minutes before we get going all the way here, as perhaps some other people, maybe joined. But then again, maybe there's something else going on and competing with that, or maybe people are just tired of these. Okay. But anyway, it was a fun day yesterday. Bought some records, and so I'll be talking a little bit about those records this evening when the Gunkles, go live. That'll be part of the show. And but yeah, there were three fairly new record stores here in Chicago. So Vance from Zep Pearl, Logan from Murmur Than Hell, and Mike from Hub Tunes, and myself. We met up and went to three of them. One of them, small store, but it had lots and lots of records. I mean, there was, the bins that were, like around the side and the perimeter, I went through all those, but then he had all these boxes of other records that were like in this island in the middle. It's a pretty small store. Excuse me. I didn't even get a chance to go through that, but I did pick up some items, from that, including this. This was a total blind buy. This one here, and I tell you, for a complete blind buy, in this beautiful neon green vinyl, this is a great 2 album set. So that was very cool. We went to another store that was very focused. I mean, all they had was metal, and we're talking serious metal here. All right, thrash metal, death metal, black metal. I mean, just there was like this tiny little section of other records that they had that were, like they identified as, potentially being like punk or post-punk or something like that. But it was seriously very much a metal shop. And so, the artwork on the albums was really, really fantastic on a lot of them. And I've been known to buy albums solely because of the artwork, not knowing anything about it. Thing is, with this serious hardcore metal, while the players, the musicians are excellent, their musicianship is just really outstanding. It doesn't appeal to me because of the vocals. The vocals, it's just something, that vocal style, that sort of growling and shouting at the same time, is not in my bailiwick. But man, some of the artwork on those records was just amazing. And then the third place we went to was kind of a pop-up store that this guy from, I believe he said he was from Savannah, Georgia, and he runs, he does these pop-ups in various locations. He might have even been from Nebraska or something like that, but and he had a lot of other novelty stuff that was there. So that was, pretty interesting. And I picked a lot of records up from that particular shop. So for the Gunkles, remember here, what I need to do is, what do I need to do? I need to copy. Here's the URL. And okay. Let me see if I did this right. And then I'll put the URL in here. So yeah, there. So it's linkable. So that's the URL for the Gunkles channel. So we'll be doing a live stream. We'll be going live this evening at 5 o'clock Central. That's going to be 10 o'clock 10 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time for all you fans over there in Europe. Yeah, the pop-up, it wasn't too badly priced. Actually, the first record store that we went to, that was, a lot of that material was, kind of expensive, but he had a lot of really good new stuff that, besides, the secondhand stuff, which, as I said, I didn't really get a good chance to do that. So, but we are going to be today talking about 1988. So I have quite a few. Well, yeah, I have some records that I have pulled out for 1988, and so we'll see how that goes, and then if somebody else is out there who has some records from 1988. Okay. That were released in 1988. Their original debut was in 1988. You can certainly come up and join. So let me know if someone is ready to join and you need a link. And then I'll post it out there. And so let's see what else is coming up too. A lot of concerts for me coming up in September. One of them got canceled. Jake Bugg, that particular show was canceled. For what reason, I haven't learned yet, but a lot of his shows in both Europe and North America apparently got canceled quite suddenly. But in September, there's going to be another Mdu Mukhtar is going to be back in Chicago. This will be his third show in Chicago within the last 12 to 18 months. So this should be a really great show. Then Tenarowin is also going to be playing in Chicago. They're going to be at the Metro. Mdu Mukhtar is going to be at Thalia Hall. Car Seat Headrest is coming back, and they're going to be playing in this bar up in Evanston, really small place. So this is really curious, okay, because they sold out 2 shows in March at the Vic Theater here in Chicago. And now they're playing this little small place, and I'm really curious about what's going to be going on with them because they haven't released a new album in a long time. And so I'm just kind of wondering, are they picking some small venues to test new material or something like that? I don't know, but I got a ticket to that. And let's see, a friend of mine, we're going to be going to the Mountain Goats. Okay, that's going to be happening in September also. Mountain Goats is brand new for me. Don't know anything about them. So that should be pretty cool. And let me think, is there anyone else? I think that's it for September. The other night, the Decemberists were here in Chicago. However, I had other plans, other obligations. So I didn't see and I almost bought a ticket when they were first on sale here because they were at the Chicago Theater. Hello, Zeb. How you doing? And I like the Decemberists, and that would have been a really, really good show in the Chicago Theater. That's a good place to see a show. I've seen several there. But yeah, so yes, if someone else has got some records from 1988 that they'd like to come on stage here for like a show and tell, and shout there in the comments, and then I will post a link. I'll start with one here until we get some others coming up on stage. And this one I want to show is when I first got this record, I got it on cassette, and loved it. Just loved this record so much. All right, Cowboy Junkies, the Trinity Session. This is such an amazing album. Okay. So they recorded this in a church. So it's a live recording inside a church, and live merely meaning, that it was not put together in pieces like you would normally do a studio album. But there was no audience or whatever. And I tell you, Margot Timmons' voice is just so amazing. And the playing is so restrained, and then yet at the same time, so intense. And they do a lot of covers on here. All right. I mean, I think pretty much all covers. Um, they do a cover of Blue Moon, Mining for Gold. I'm So Lonesome, I Could Cry. Dreaming My Dreams with You. Working on a Building. Sweet Jane. Walking After Midnight. There's really, really, really just amazing. And you can see here's a photo. Oops, that you can see where that are playing in the church. So it's just really quite amazing. Called Trinity Session because it was at the Trinity Church in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. But yeah, this is a music on vinyl release, and it sounds really, really exquisite. I'm so glad. Although, I have other Cowboy Junkies on vinyl, or excuse me, not on vinyl. Other Cowboy Junkies that I have on CD, but not necessarily on on vinyl. Would like to get some. They've played here in Chicago too at some fairly small venues in the past. I just have not been able to go. So they did one really small show that I didn't hear about until the last minute. So it'd be nice to be able to see them. I mean, because this was their debut in 1988. All right, so we're looking at this is 2000, so 24 years later. So they're another band. It's amazing when you stop and think about some of these bands. They were brand new and fresh in the 1980s, and I was young and full of spunk and ready to rock and roll, and then all of a sudden it's 30 years later. It's like, oh yeah, it was just the 1980s. I mean, when I was, in the 1970s, 30 years ago was the 1940s. And, and that was like this ancient time that, I had like no concept about or anything. So, but yeah, Cowboy Junkies. So anyone else out there in the peanut gallery, a Cowboy Junkie fan? I mean, I like the, what's it called? Black Eyed Cowboy. And then there's another one I have on CD that actually what I did for a while as what do you call it? Let's see here. I got distracted there thinking about something else, and now what the hell? I can't even now remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, what I used to do is I would go to the library. There was a library where I was living at the time, and they had CDs that you could check out. They had records too that you could check out. But with the CD, it was very easy for me to copy, burn a copy of something for myself. So that was a good thing there. So all right, I'm glad somebody took care of that troll, it appears, because it's not showing up in the comments on YouTube. So but anyway, I'll just go ahead and block them so they're not around. Let's see what else. All right, so you all right, so but yeah, that it is a really good record. And Ed, if you are I just have to say that Margot Timmons' voice is the silkiest, smoothest voice I think ever recorded for female vocalists. It's just an amazing, beautiful, sonorous, melodic voice that I struggle to find another female vocalist to sort of compare her to. There are some newer vocalists I think that are similar to her, but not. I'm not familiar with them. So at the time when I was listening to her, she just, her voice was just so unique, and it was really hard to find someone to compare it to. Hi, Jorgen, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing quite well. It's I think actually for 1988, I've got. I probably don't have as many as you have, but I have a fair number of, and quite a variety.
Let's just say that 1988 at the time was not my favorite year of the 80s. I thought it was much then because of I was still a synthesizer guy, and 88 was not the biggest year of the synthesizer music. And so it was a lot of stuff that I didn't like what was big, and I didn't have that much check on what wasn't big. So I started to learn more that 1988 actually was a great year than I thought today. But then I thought it was horrible. So I don't have that much 88 as I have 87 and 86, 85 and so on.
Right,
but of course I have a solid amount of picks.
Yeah, the 1989, when we get to 1989, I think I have more titles on CD from 1989 than I do on vinyl. So that I may be a little slim on that one. But yeah, there's if I just kind of scan what I got here, yeah, there's not a lot of that falls in like that category you're talking about, the synth pop. Yeah, like nobody. I've got nobody in that category. Although Cabaret Voltaire was still very active at the time, and so and there were some others, but
let's just say that judging from last week, I have some records that most likely will get people like Zeb and Christopher to shake in their boots of fear.
yeah. I do have, yes, Christopher. I have, Frank Zappa releases from these years, but because I devote my time to the going over the Zappa material, separately. I generally do not cover them here, in this particular forum. So, and I am not familiar with. I've heard of Mazzy Star, but I don't know them. Yeah, that's somebody I don't remember. I probably have heard them when I used to watch the show on MTV, 120 Minutes. But yeah, I didn't do that one, so or I don't have, haven't listened to that for so long. So and I never picked up on Mazzy Star at the time. So hey, James.
Hello. You were speaking of Cowboy Junkies earlier. I have something to show you.
That's what about the Cowboy Junkies?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Well, you might want to make me big because I have to bring this close to the screen.
Okay. Is that a DVD?
This is a special edition of the Trinity, the 20th anniversary edition, and you have a DVD and the actual album, and they redid it all live.
Oh, so this was the documentary of them recording it?
Yeah, this is this is like a concert that's 20 years later, and they did it. And I also have this to show you if you want to make me big.
That's sweet. That's sweet that you got.
Because I wrote a poem to Margot Timmons, and I gave it to one of the stagehands at one of the concerts that I went to, and she wrote me a handwritten letter, and they all signed it for me.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
And this is the I also have the original Trinity Sessions album on CD, but I don't know where it is, so I just grabbed this one because it was the closest one I had. So I figured I'd show this, and
I have not seen that concert documentary of that. I would like to, though. I would like to check it out.
Yeah, this is the actual CD, and this is the DVD. It's very, very good, and I really, really love this this packaging. It was hard to find this in the stores, and one day I was in a store, I forget where I was, and I grabbed it. I said, "Oh my God, they have it!" I grabbed it. It was the last one they had, so I said, "Oh, I better get that." Because they are one of my favorite bands. I've met Margot Timmons a couple of times. She is so sweet. She even gave me a kiss on the cheek one time when I gave her flowers, and then she rubbed her hand across my head. I was like, "Oh, that was awesome." Yeah. But I've seen Cowboy Junkies 5 or 6 times live in concert.
Oh, well, that's great. And every time that they've ever showed up here in Chicago, I've missed them because I just was not part of the right grapevine. I'm on a lot more concert notification lists now than I was in the past. But yeah, there's a venue up in Evanston.
I don't know where it is. I'll have to show it to you sometime.
There's a venue up in Evanston that they played actually more than once, and both times I didn't hear about it. And we're talking about a venue where you're sitting at these little round tables, it's very intimate, and then they're right there on the stage, very small, intimate place. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. That was cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Jorgen, do you have something to start us off with?
Oh, am I the first one?
Yep.
Sure. I already showed one. And James already showed one.
Yep.
I'm going to say that what also formed me a lot in 1988, I was going 14 that year, was also the fact that we lived in an apartment, in a flat apartment, rented apartment, and there we got cable TV, so I can watch MTV, I could watch Super Channel, I could watch Coca-Cola Euroshot Top 50 on Sky Channel, and that made me open my eyes for more music. So I was very pleased for that. Hi, Pearl. And I'm starting with one of my absolute favorites this year, and overall, this is also one that I have on my top list of the best albums ever. I showed her before. German Sandra and her Into a Secret Land.
Almost clicked on the wrong button for making you big here. Okay.
And comparing to the previous album I've shown with her, this one was even more dreamier, but still Michael Cretu's fantastic production and her fantastic voice and melodies. And it was very dreamy and atmospheric production, and I just love this album. I listened to it 9 million times. I can listen to it 9 million times more. So, Into a Secret Land, Sandra, my first pick.
I am not familiar. But then again, I'm sorry?
I bet you may have heard
I probably have.
Maria Magdalena was her biggest hit in 1985.
See, right around 1988, I was I had moved to Ruidoso, New Mexico. So I was in kind of a mountain resort town and working at a newspaper there. So the closest significant record store was probably there might have been one in Roswell, but I hardly ever went to Roswell. So Albuquerque, which was 2-3 hours away, that was pretty much it. All right, I'm gonna go off the hook a little bit here with something. This is Acid House. So this is a reissue that came out in the last couple of years, but the original was from 1988. And very simple cover. All right. Hot Mix Records, Acid. And so no, I'll just read the tracks. You know, there's 2 tracks per side, and they're on this this red vinyl. And the first time I listened to this, there were a couple songs on there that I kind of liked, and then the other ones were like, like side 4. There's 2 records. Side 4, Cool McCool, World Turns Around, and then there's a mix of Pump Up the Acid mixed by Mickey Oliver and Ralphie Rosario. You know, those were good. But then I gave it, another listen, and this really has started to grow on me. Even there's this song called "Can You Feel the Bass" by Fortune, and initially I was kind of but man, the more I've listened to this, the more it has really, really grown on me. I've been exploring more acid house. This is a Chicago acid house. It was recorded in Chicago in 1988. So learning from Stunty, I've been, and from some others, learning that, Chicago, the dance house scene, was really famous for the development of acid house. And so I've been exploring it more because and it kind of, it took me a while to kind of get my ear around it, because I am so used to club music being the various, house mixes of top 40 songs, right? So, and then, there's the great mixes of, of a top 40 song. But the other, there weren't too many. I mean, there were plenty of DJs who were playing the other stuff, but generally they played the other stuff that wasn't necessarily mixed with a top 40 song. They played that early in the evening, and my group, we didn't show up to the clubs until close to midnight, and so we didn't necessarily always hear that. But this is really good stuff. I'm starting to enjoy this a lot more, and looking for some more house music, and particularly the acid house. So yeah, I really was. It was interesting to discover and learn this stuff. There is a store here in Chicago called Gramophone Records that has all kinds of dance and house and trance and techno music. I mean, they've just got tons and tons of 12-inch singles, and I'm finding with this type of music that I would prefer sometimes to look for the 12-inch single and get that. Some of the compilations, they're pretty good, but my best compilations are actually on CDs. I have a bunch. It's mostly 90s house and techno, dance and trance. But the earlier stuff I'm kind of unfamiliar with, and it's really been kind of fun checking some of this stuff out. So
I actually like a lot British acid house sometimes, often. Although I'm not a mix. I don't like 12 inches and so on. I prefer the radio edit, but I like the beat of the British house scenes.
Yeah, there's a couple in my want list that are compilations. So like they're two double album, and mixes of various songs. And most of the sellers that I see selling them are in Britain or in Germany, although they are Chicago house music. But yeah, there are some great. I mean, what's his name? Jonathan Peele. He's been doing mixes for, geez, a long ass time, since the 80s, and he, I think Jonathan Peele is from London. So I have one Jonathan Peele mix of LFO, and I found one that he did of Syd Barrett songs that I would like to get that, because I like Syd Barrett. I like his quirky material that he did outside of Pink Floyd, and although I really like the stuff that he did with Pink Floyd, but I would like to get that as well. So that's
I'm going to show more British house music in 1989.
One of these, after we get through the 80s and the 90s, maybe by then I'll have some more examples, because I'm thinking, I may dedicate the theme of the live stream to house, dance, trance music, of whatever era, because there is a lot of it out there. And yesterday when we were on our record crawl, I picked this up, and it includes there's a couple people in here who are from Britain, really amazing material. This was a complete blind buy, and I just love it. It is really, really good. So, James, do you have any others to show?
Oh yeah, I got a couple of things today. I really did my homework.
All right, what do you got here?
One, we have is the Traveling Wilbury's first album from 1988. This is just a couple months before Roy Orbison died. I love the back cover. This is cool with all their guitars and stuff.
They were so huge on the radio for a while.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because they kind of
name everybody on the front cover. Who's who?
They kind of dragged George Harrison out of obscurity,
Yeah, Roy's in there, and Tom Petty. We got Jeff Lynne and Bob Dylan. Yeah, this is a great album. And my favorite song is I like Margarita, because I like that how it starts at the beginning with that little bass line. I think it's a keyboard. I'm not sure how they did that, but I just like that little keyboard thing at the beginning. So we got Handle with Care. That's a great song. Dirty World, Rattled, Last Night, Not Alone Anymore. That's just a solo by Roy. We got Congratulations, Heading for the Light, Margarita, Tweeter and the Monkey Man, and End of the Line. So I think the two singles were End of the Line and Handle with Care, if I remember correctly.
I remember some songs from that album. The singles are okay, but the problem is that this is at the time when Jeff Lynne's production started to sound, with some exceptions, started to sound very much. Everything started to sound very much alike after that, having more or less the same, in my opinion, very stale production. So I'm not that big fan of the entire band, Traveling Wilburys, but End of the Line, great song, no doubt.
Yeah, I enjoyed hearing the Wilburys, on the radio and all that. But yeah, I didn't love them enough to pick up. But I tell you, Roy Orbison, talk about somebody who had a voice. I mean, really like a bird. I mean, it's just a really, really incredible voice, and one of the few people who had an incredible voice all through his life. There are some singers have great voices when they're young, and then as they get older, that they don't quite have, they can't read, the range gets smaller. The strength of them singing, tends to weaken. But Roy Orbison is definitely, I may start picking up some of his stuff as I start seeing it, just because his voice is so incredible on that. So,
and one I had before, which I don't have anymore, I wish I still had it. it came out the same year as Traveling Wilburys did Roy Orbison's solo album, their Mystery Girl.
Yeah, that I know the name, but I can't think of what it is. Cloud 9 came out in 80. Yeah, Cloud 9 came out in 87 because I had it pulled for our last stream.
I responded to to the Record Hound.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right, Jorgen, what do you have up next?
It's not often I have seen that Christopher and I agrees on something. So I thought that now when he's here, let's pick the moment. He mentioned this album in the Peanut Gallery, so why not? Toto, the Seventh One. I bought this album back in 1995 on CD, and I listened to it a lot back in that year. And it is a fantastic album with amazing atmosphere and amazing mood in it, especially with songs like Anna that I think is really great, and Mushanga, and of course the singles Stop Loving You and Pamela. Hi Bip Bop Boom. I think this is a magnificent album. The arguments are still going which Toto singer that was the best, and I say Steve Lukather. Steve Lukather, in my opinion, are Toto for me. So and this is the proof of it. So Toto, the Seventh One, among many great albums, I'm keeping this as Toto's best album.
Cool.
Interesting. Toto was something I just it never grew on me. Toto and Asia.
I like the production, the very soft, the raw stuff.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And I don't even remember anything from. Yeah, I can't think of anything from that.
Their most famous song is "I Bless the Rains Down in Africa."
Oh, is that one from? I thought that was from an earlier one.
Yeah, that is from number 4.
Okay.
That's from 1982.
Yeah, because I was living in Tucson. I mean, I can picture it right now in my head. There was I was at somebody's house and he had a lot of Toto and Asia, and he was he worked at the same place I did, but he was also a smoke jumper. So he was one of the hot shots, which is this group of like wildfire fighters that basically they lay around and party all the time because they're not working. But then when there's a big forest fire, they get activated. They're kind of like in the National Guard of firefighters, and then they drop them in to the fire. They don't set them in the perimeter. They drop them in the fire, so that they can work in the heart of the fire. They got paid a ton of money, so that the rest of the year they didn't really have to work.
The single here is I Can't Stop Loving You. Time passes quickly, our chances are few.
Not familiar with that one.
No, can't get it. All right, so I'm going to go with some, I guess you could call it post-punk, because this is a band that I first became familiar with when they were known as the Alley Cats. And then later they became known as the Zarkons, or at least a couple of them. And you can see all this writing on here because this was a DJ copy of this. So it's the band in the back there. And this is much more new wave than punk, all right? So they were very hardcore punk, part of the LA hardcore punk scene in the early 80s. And then they became a little more power pop, in the later 80s. It's kind of funny because you wrote all over this. This was WNMG, I think, or whatever. And it's interesting because, it's a cutout record, all right? And then it got stamped as a promo copy with the stamp on it, which it's not the same as a white label promo because it's than the regular Atlantic label. But yeah, he wrote all over. It says pretty good overall. He wrote 4 stars, but then he crossed off one of the stars, on there. So, but then he was like rating each of the songs, on there. And it is a good album. It is a really good album. Very, very different from what they were doing. I think it's the oops. I hate doing this because I can't ever tell where I am. This and this guy are the 2 who were part of the Alley Cats, and then when they switched and became the Zarkons, they do a cover of "Heart Full of Soul." I mean, that's their side A opener, is "Heart Full of Soul," and they do a really, really nice cover of that. And then the other one. So yeah, the Zarkons, and when they were the Alley Cats, kind of a funny story about that. They were playing, I was living in Tucson, this would have been like 1980, and they were playing in this club called Choo Choo's. It also was called Night Train, and it was part of this circuit. It was part of an LA circuit, and it was part of the Austin circuit. So they would get some pretty decent acts coming through. And they were playing as the Alley Cats, and this friend of was saying, "Oh, we got to go see the Alley Cats, man," because he was thinking of the Stray Cats. Okay, the Stray Cats had just started releasing records, and they were like big hit, on the radio. But he mixed it up, and we were all thinking, "Oh yeah, the Alley Cats," when we were thinking Stray Cats. So we get to this bar, and it's this hardcore 3-piece punk band, and we weren't prepared for that, and we're very disappointed with it. And I remember him taking a pitcher of beer and going up to the stage, drinking from the pitcher of beer, and then spitting the beer all over the band. And they didn't flinch, and nobody flinched, and then it was like, well, that's just part of the scene, I guess. But later, I actually grew to like the Alley Cats. They're that LA style punk music. So you never know. I mean, I hated them at first, but that's because I was expecting somebody else, and so now they've grown on me.
I never heard of the band you showed. So
all right. So James, do you have something else for us?
Yep. I'm actually on a roll today. I got some good stuff here. I'm saving the best for last. All the good stuff for last. So this next one is a two CD volume set of compilation from love songs of the 50s and 60s that my dad got from Columbia House back in 1993, I think, when we first got our CD player. So here's which one am I showing here? Well, that's volume 1, and I'll show you the back. I don't know how well the songs will show up. Can you see that okay?
There you go. A little bit of glare on the bottom, but yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And here's volume 2. So after he passed away, I inherited these 2 CDs. So because I like all that old-timey kind of music, they're fun to listen to.
What are your favorite songs on there?
I like 16 Candles, Kiss Me Goodbye, because I love Petulia Clark. And one of my favorites, my all-time favorite is on here too, The End of the World, Skeeter Davis. What else do I like on the first one? He's So Fine, the Chiffons. The other one, on volume 2, my favorite, it starts the whole disc out, and that's Downtown, Petulia Clark. Anything else in here I like?
Thank you, Roger.
That's it. That's all I really like. I mean, everything's a classic on here, but those are the main ones I really like a lot.
Some golden oldies.
Yep.
All right, Jorgen.
Power
Papas.
What? Pardon?
Power Papas.
I'm picking a band that I showed last week. and that I then said that album was one of my absolute favorites. This one that I'm going to show with the same band comes very close also. It's also a great one, but of course it doesn't reach up to the album I showed last week, but it's still an amazing one. I'm talking about Level 42 and Staring at the Sun, an album who at the time became a little bit criticized from it was divided in opinion. Some thought it was a great one, of course, but some also said that it was too tough one. They were very they have been very, very used to the more commercial style that Running in the Family and World Machine was. This was a little bit tougher style, even though the singles were pretty normal. But I think this is a really, really great and relaxing album. And it also had some amazing singles. Heaven in My Hands. Now, how that song didn't become just as good hit as Running in the Family, Lessons in Love is, for me, unbelievable. I like the ballad, Take a Look. Also fantastic, fantastic song. Two Hearts Collide. This is a really, really great, relaxing album from a band who tried to get away a little bit from the commercial into a more experimental style, but still hold on to their jazzy pop style. Really, really great.
Oh, nice. Again, that's another band that I heard of, but that's about it. So
Same with me.
I don't know them.
No, me either.
I'll do one here for Zeb because he's here. I know he's probably expecting this one to be shown, and because he was talking about this last week because it was recorded in 1987 but not released until 1988, and that is The Residents of God in Three Persons. And unfortunately, my copy, although the wax is in excellent shape, I've got some water damage. So on the cover, but this is, as they were talking about this, last week, they had this record all recorded, all the tracks were laid down, and then they were just waiting for Snakefinger to come in and lay down his guitar tracks that they were then going to add to it. But that's when he died in 1987 of a heart attack or heart failure, one or the other. I guess there's a modicum of difference. This is a really interesting album. This is one that not just resonated with their fans, but it really resonated with a lot of music critics as well. In spite of the fact that it's really, it's not quite a spoken word album, but it is. How do you say the meter? Okay, so there's this guy narrating the story. The story is a little bit macabre, in that you've got this guy who is Mr. X, and he finds this pair of conjoined twins who have these miraculous healing powers. And I guess the twins, one's male, one's female, he begins to lust after the female twin. But the thing is that they are hermaphroditic in a way that they can change each other. They can change sexes. And he ends up raping the female twin. So there's this, weird, violent undertone that is going on in there. And then which results in the twins, being split apart. And when the narrator, this Mr. X, is speaking, he is using the same meter as Edgar Allan Poe used for the poem The Raven. So while he's speaking, there is a musical quality to him reciting everything. And it is this meter. So even though it sounds like he's just talking about something, his words are in time with, whatever weird music that you can hear in there. It really is a very incredible album. It has been on my list of wants for years, and then I finally found a copy in the wild. And of course, it's got the damage on it. The wax is in such good shape. This is it's on this clear vinyl, the Ryko analog release. That I'll still probably maybe order a copy that has a near mint cover, because on the inside of the gatefold are the lyrics or the story that this Mr. X is telling, and because of the water damage, all on both sides, you can't read what is printed in there. It's lost. But yes, a very amazing, different. Not that you can categorize the Residents. Their music is still unusual all the way around. But this one is definitely is standout. Yes, we are, Stunty. We are in the year 1988.
Mm-hmm.
So
now it's my turn to say I've heard of the Residents. I never heard of them.
Well, you see, now my story with the Residents, I first heard of them in like 1980. This would have been about the time of the Mole Show. And there was someone who I knew who said, Reg, man, you like Frank Zappa, you gotta like the Residents, okay? And so he was just like raving about them, but I never really heard anything by them. And it wasn't until the last 10 years I finally thought, I'm going to start checking out the Residents. And the first Residents album I bought was Eskimo, which blew my mind. It's you can't really call it music. It's kind of like a sonic anthropological, actually a sonic fictitious anthropological study of Inuit people. It's just, that's the best way to describe what it is. But it blew my mind. And so, yeah, I've been madly collecting Residents ever since. So anyway, the Recedents. Is this a typo, Ed, or did you see the Residents, or did you see the Recedents? I've never had an opportunity to see, the Residents, and they've been producing music since the 70s, and they're still releasing albums and releasing material. A lot of it is way out there that I can't even get my head around. So what have you got for us next there?
Now we're going to go something a little completely different. And this album was very expensive when I found it, but I had to get it because I just love her voice. Sarah Brightman. The Trees, They Grow So High. It's folk songs arranged by Benjamin Britten, 1913 to 1976.
Have you ever listened to any Benjamin Britten recordings?
No,
before?
I have not, but this album is beautifully done. And the first song, Early One Morning, which is one of my favorites, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a Canadian kid show. It was on there every morning on CBC at 10:15 called The Friendly Giant. So the instrumental piece they used for that was the song Early One Morning. And I just absolutely love her. I've seen her live. She does a really good version of A Whiter Shade of Pale. And she was in Phantom of the Opera, and she's married to Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Now, if you like those songs that she covered by Benjamin Britten, Benjamin Britten, I won't say he's one of my favorite composers, but I do like a lot of his material, and he's done. Yeah, come right up, John. Knock yourself out. I just posted the link up there. So, but anyway, he's done operas, he's done choral work, and so I have an opera by him. Then the reason I started trying to collect Benjamin Britten is if you've ever seen the film Midnight Kingdom or Moonlight Kingdom, I think it is.
Yes, I've seen that in the theater. I have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, so there's that little theme in there about Noah's flood. All right, that is a piece by Benjamin Britten that those kids were performing. So there you go. So hey, how you doing, John?
Thanks, Richard. Hey, James. Hey, Jorgen.
How are things going over in Boston?
Oh, good. Going good. Nice weather. We broke the heat wave finally, and cooled down a little the last 3 days. So,
hey, there we go. Because we're heading into the ember months.
Yeah.
So things are going to start to change. All right. Well, you got something from 1988. I know you do.
Yeah, I pulled a bunch that I could think of. I don't have like Discogs to check the dates, but these are important records for me as like an American male. Like at the time was the first Danzig record, which was he was from the Misfits, and the Misfits were basically an obscure punk band that were broken up and got a resurgence in around 86 to 88, and this would be their debut record, which is important because this is like the resurgence of the Misfits, who became massive through the years just from T-shirts and stuff. But this was a Rick Rubin record, at Rick Rubin in his prime, after he did like the Beastie Boys in maybe 86, their debut album. Then he did like the Black Crowes, Trouble, and Rick Run DMC. Rick Rubin was on like totally at the height of his game during the Cult's Electric record also in 87. But that was a big record in 88,
Now, I have the first two Misfits records when Glenn Danzig was part of them. So, but I've never picked up any of his solo. But, there's so many different places where his it's like his name is spoken with reverence.
But that sound, that Rick Rubin, that dry guitar sound, it almost like that Danzig record is a rock record. It's not punk. It's got like it's very close to like a dry AC/DC Led Zeppelin, very much like the Cult Electric record, if you remember. And it's the same guitar tones he used. It's a formula if you look back on it, like the Beastie Boys, Fight for Your Right to Party, and No Sleep to Brooklyn. This dry guitar chord, and it's the same sound he used even on the Black Crowes and some of the heavy metal records he did. But it was a great sound in 88. It was powerful. Yeah.
And there's a band I haven't listened to in a while, the Black Crowes. All right, cool. Thank you. All right, Jorgen, what do you have?
Well, total change of style. I'm going to admit Danzig isn't really my style. I'm going to make Zeb and Christopher really happy because I pulled a record last week that they really didn't like, but an artist that didn't like. So I said that as a punishment, I'm going to take an album with the same artist once again this year. And I will, because this album is such an amazing one. Swedish Peter Lemark and his album Närmare gränsen, Closer the Limit or Border. And I think this is extremely fantastic, maybe one of the best Swedish albums ever. Really relaxing with amazing lyrics and great atmosphere. And I love his voice and naked and very, very open lyrics. If you take a look at one of the songs, Det finns inga mirakel, there are no miracles, when they really actually talk about a relationship that is definitely on its way down, and the really inside feelings of it. It's such an amazing album. Definitely maybe one of the best Swedish albums ever. Peter Lemark, Närmare gränsen.
Where is he from?
Trollhättan. It is in the south west of Sweden, I think.
Oh, okay.
But I think he lives in Stockholm right now, but he's original from that city.
All right. Nice. All right, keep rolling through here. This is not the first album I listened to by this band, but I was blown away by the first album that I listened to of this band. Heard them on 120 Minutes, and that album was called Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell. And so the record, I finally started going back in their discography. And so Social Distortion, this is LA Prison Bound. And I tell you what, Michael Ness on his guitar and his vocals. I mean, I can see how some people might not like the timbre of his voice, but man, I love this guy's voice. I love his guitar playing. It's simple, but it is brilliant. It is just the things that he does. That's why I was so impressed with that record, Somewhere Between. I think it's called Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell. So I've gone back and picked up, some more of these. So I think I have 3 of their records now, and they've actually recently have played a couple of times here in Chicago, but I didn't go. I didn't know about it in time to be able to go see them, and I'm pretty sure that they still rock pretty hard. And I was listening to this last night. And their cover of the Rolling Stones' Backstreet Girl is really quite amazing. Because you think of that song, and it's just kind of it sounds sweet, when Jagger is kind of singing it, but then I really think that Ness and the band actually reveal the rawness of that song so much better than even the Rolling Stones did. It was almost like they were trying to camouflage, the song in a way. It was really refreshing to hear that. But yeah, great record. And I like Social.
An important band, almost more important than their music. Just the way they were had 70s punk, and they would go back and they actually did a Stone song before that on an EP, if I remember. So they would link to 60s rock. Obviously they were doing Carl Perkins, and they had their 50s haircut. So they had 50s rock, and it was also a modern 80s sound. So they tied 4 decades together in the concept of their band. And I really appreciate that. Linking all Americana, the Stones are an Americana, but you know what I mean? 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Pretty good.
And the whole feel of the blues,
Yes.
throughout everything they did. I mean, it's just that part of their music is what really appealed to me, was the blues roots. But everything else, like you said about them, it's just. Yeah,
and that's a modern record you had there, Prison Bound. It's not a retro record. It's a modern record.
Yeah,
it has all those influences, and they're wearing them on their sleeves, so everyone knows. It's
right.
It's pretty cool.
Great recording, great sound engineering, great sounding record. I really do like their stuff. So, all right, moving on. What do you got for us, James?
Well, I got another compilation, another thing that my friend gave me, Time Life Music from 1959. Almost looks like a bunch of Elvis Presley's, doesn't it? So this one has some really great tracks on here.
It's like going to Las Vegas and you're seeing all the impersonators.
Yeah, this is a great album, and I have the whole Time Life series of the 1950s and going into up to 62, from 1956 to 62. But this one was from 88, so I pulled this one out of the whole group. And it's a great album. I'm always into that old music.
Well, what's your favorite track off it?
That would be Donna by Richie Valens, the guy that did La Bamba.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know he was part of the day rock and roll died, or the day the music died.
Buddy Holly, Big Bopper.
Yeah.
Stunty mentioned Godflesh. I forgot to pull it, but I'll go with the first Godflesh was 88. But this was the record I'm going to pick is Jane's Addiction, Nothing Shocking. They were kind of an obscure, I mean, we didn't really have the term alternative at the time. I shouldn't probably show that cover. But this album came out. The first album was a live album, and it was underground. This album came out, and a lot of people were into it, but it didn't break yet. It really didn't break till like 88, 89. But this was a big deal on like the alternative or whatever you want to call it, the underground artsier music making the mainstream, and like rock kids started getting into this. And this is probably an important record for breaking like bands like Nirvana and people to have a little more open mind, like when the Soundgardens and Pearl Jams and all that came up instead of just like, you know, the Poisons and Motley Crues. So I'll go with Nothing Shocking for 88.
That is one I need to bring into my collection. I got Ritual de la Habitual when it was released, and that, totally, that's another record that blew my mind, and just epic songs. And I've listened to Nothing Shocking. I just have never picked up a copy of it. It's not that easy to find anymore.
It was. CD was mainly how it probably sold. Because it got bigger in 89, 90 than it was in 88.
Right. So even getting that on CD would be. I don't spend much time in the CD bins anymore at the record store, but I got to remember that a lot of these bands, that's really, I mean, they released albums, but some of them, it's the reverse, where they, for a while in the early 80s, they were pressing basically shit onto the CDs that was super high compressed, and then they got better at it later in the 80s and in the 90s. But then when they started releasing it on vinyl, they just did a crappy job of pressing the vinyl. They didn't remaster it for vinyl. So anyway, I need to get that in my collection. So, all right, Jürgen.
Well, I'm going to totally, once again, change style. I heard of Jane's Addiction, but that's pretty much it. I'm going with to Europe, to one of the few bands from Switzerland, and album that a band that it's connected with one song, but there's so much more than that, and I love this album. Yellow Flag. The band Yellow is a band that might look like so far away from pop stars there is. They looks like more grown economics with mustaches and slick hair and costumes, but they are really amazing synthesizer guys. The Race is, of course, the big thing to claim, which is on this album, but this is such a really amazing and with a whole lot of imagination. I don't have their first albums yet, but I'm hoping to find one. Thank you, Christopher. I think this is really, it is such an imagination and filled with fantasy. You never know what it's going to take, but it is really fun music combined with stuff that sounds very dramatic but has a comic undertone in it. And I really like this album. We have The Flag. We have, of course, I'm Lying. That is such an amazing song. And Blazing Saddles, also a really great one. No, Charlie Bassey is not on this one. No, that's on Stella, I think.
Okay. The people in the peanut gallery know about Yellow, but yeah, that's somebody I'm not familiar with at all.
They should, because they are from Europe.
Yeah, now that has a lot to do with it. There's so many bands that I'm picking up on that are based in Europe, and I only hear about them because of people here that I know, or because I hear about it online. And so like De Staat, I just love the band De Staat. They're from the Netherlands, and I talk to other people. Oh man, I've never heard of them. No, who is this? Who is this? And then I play it for them, and then they're going, wow, this is good. So yeah, broaden our horizons. Got to do that. Music is a great leveler. So this was released in 1988, and it's not my favorite Sonic Youth album, but it's got some of my favorite songs by Sonic Youth on this, and plus it's signed by
Cool.
and Steve Shelley, because I saw them at a little presentation that they did. Now the painting is taken from these paintings by Gerhard Richter, and this particular one, I think this is the one, is on display in the Art Institute in Chicago. So I remember, because I've been to the Art Institute like dozens of times, and when I saw this record and I saw that, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to buy it just because of the the cover art on it. And like one of my favorite songs on here is Total Trash. I don't know. I just love the way they loop the song and everything. And when they were at the talk that I saw them at here in Chicago, this would have been pre-pandemic days, maybe. So it would have been like 2018, maybe. Thurston was talking about how that is a song that they really cannot do live because of the way it was recorded, and it is an amazing sound to it, though. But it is too bad that it's technically something that they can't pull off in a live venue, which is too bad, because it's just a great song. But definitely one of my favorites, and it's a solid recording all the way around. But Goo is probably my favorite Sonic Youth, just because that was the first one I ever listened to, and it was just the right record at the right time for me. So, but sometimes that happens. Your favorite record in somebody's catalog is not necessarily their highest rated.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, James, what you got?
Well, next we have a lesser-known Elton John album called Reg Strikes Back. So I'll have to tell you
what's the title of it again?
What? Reg Strikes Back.
Okay. Yeah.
Reg, as in Reginald Dwight, his real name.
Yeah, Reginald Dwight, yeah. So the songs on here are Town of Plenty, A Word in Spanish, Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatter's Part 2. I don't want to go on with you like that. Japanese Hands. Okay, some pictures in there. Goodbye Marlon Brando. The Camera Never Lies. Heavy Traffic. Poor Cow. And Since God Invented Girls. So that's that. So Reg Strikes Back. This is one of his lesser-known albums.
And he's
So I
pretty
think-
late in his career.
Yeah, but I really don't know what the big hit on here was. Maybe it was I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That.
There are even lesser known Elton John albums, actually.
Yeah.
You say that one because I also had pulled that one out.
Oh, you've got it on vinyl. Oh.
I think that this is a great Elton John album. Town of Plenty was a great song that is sadly forgotten. A Word in Spanish also sadly forgotten, really great one. And I Don't Want to Go On With You Like That is also a really great one. So I think this is a great.
Here, hold that up. So yeah, just hold it up again so we can Get a better look at it, yeah, with the cover. Interesting cover.
Oh, your insert's different than mine.
That happens a lot. There was a couple CDs that I had from like the 90s or even the early 2000s, and that they had very limited vinyl pressings. So they were super hard to find. And when I finally got a vinyl pressing because of a reissue, none of the original inserts were included in it. And it was a good pressing, but that just sucks when they do that, in my opinion. If you're going to reissue something, reissue everything. Yeah, anyway. All right, John, what you got for us?
Okay, I got a very important record, but it's probably not talked about, but just because of when it came out. But this is Mudhoney's Super Fuzz Big Muff from 1988 on Sub Pop, and two of the guys, Steve Turner and Mark Alm, were from the band Green River, who made a little impact in Seattle. But this is ground zero for what we consider grunge rock. This and maybe the first Tad record, and to me, they're still the two best. They've never been surpassed. But this has 70s punk, heavy metal, and in like the 60s, early 70s fuzz pedals and noise. Yet it was so modern and groundbreaking at the time, and all the cliches you think about grunge with the flannels, the fuzz guitars, the chords, the jumping around like this, all started from Mudhoney and Tad, and they kind of get left in the dust, unfortunately. But this is a massive, important record. It wasn't huge or anything at the time, but 1988 Sub Pop.
About 1990, there was a Mudhoney release that I remember hearing, but that's about my limit with.
The thing with Mudhoney, they had like a EP or two singles, and then when their first full LP came out, they had lost. I mean, they're still a great band. They put out some good stuff, but they never captured that energy and just that feel of that first record. But then they kind of faded, and by that time, the Nirvanas and everyone surpassed them, and who cares? But L7, take any band, and their biggest influence, because they were around, was that Mudhoney sound, because they were first. And Tad. I don't want to neglect Tad.
Oh, that would have been an interesting show to be at. All right. Jorgen.
Oh, already.
Yep.
Hey, wake up.
It went so fast. I'm going to really break from now. I have shown vinyl, but now I'm going to show vinyl singles. We talked about house music, and I thought that even though 1989 will be the year when I'm going to show more house music on vinyl, I thought to have a little prelude by showing a couple of my absolute favorite in British dance music, house music, S-Express. S-Express and Superfly Guy. That was huge hits back in 1988. I have the album, of course, but that album is from 1989. It was released 1989, so I couldn't wait. And I think that these are such an amazing groove. And Superfly Guy also is where Seal makes his real breakthrough, actually. You haven't seen anything less, Christopher. You haven't seen Mike on the
Wow, someone's dragging you really harshly there, Jorgen.
I could show him Christopher and Zeb. Christopher, but I don't think you want that. I don't think I
think he has some high expectations for you.
Yeah.
Some slapstick among Swedes. I like this S-Express. I like them a lot. Mark Moore, fantastic house production, the man behind this band, and S-Express, really great and unpredictable and funny, very funny.
No, cool. Yeah, definitely want to explore a lot of that, a lot more. My problem is that I'm really afraid I'm gonna, it's like I was rearranging my records earlier today because a couple of my sections are getting too big to fit in the space that I had for them. And so I'm trying to rearrange things, and it's like, oh shit, I'm going to have to buy some more freaking cubicles because I don't have any place to keep, because I keep buying, can't stop. Jeez. Like yesterday's record crawl. All right. I'm going to go a slightly different direction here. Let's see, which one do I want to try? I'll go with this one. So, I don't know if you're familiar with Johnny Clegg.
Oh yeah, Johnny Clegg and Savuka.
Yeah, it's Savuka, and then there's also Juluka. This is Savuka. This was released in 1988. One of those albums that got sent back, the hole punch in them. Definitely, when you think of 80s style production, that sound is very, evident in here. Whereas there were some other records that were being released that had a richer sound. It didn't quite have that tinny 80s production sound. And this one is kind of like bordering on that, but it's good. I really enjoy this. And he was certainly a very groundbreaking musician in that he was just really pushing the envelope socially in South Africa. I mean, when he first, he came from a very privileged background, and then when he appeared performing, with black musicians with him, and then he was dressed in Zulu traditional dress during the performance. The powers that be in South Africa at that time were like, banning him from the radio, would be shutting his shows down. I mean, it was really, he was pushing the envelope way too hard. And the powers that be there in South Africa were responding very aggressively. But he kept it up, and he he's got that Burgundy Capital label. He kept it up, and he did a lot of music, and he attracted a lot of attention, I believe, from people like, Peter Gabriel and some others, and maybe even Paul Simon. I don't know, that there was some interest going on, at that time with the style of music from there. But he definitely was a pioneer in terms of breaking down the walls of apartheid in South Africa at the time.
Also, David Byrne was bringing that influence over. I don't know if he was influenced off that.
Yeah,
if you remember.
Yeah, that's right. David Byrne, definitely.
But that was big in that 88 period. It was like the first time a lot of Americans heard this stuff, Paul Simon.
Did that album contain a song called Dela?
No, it's got not by that name.
Okay, I've heard a few songs by Johnny Clegg. I definitely most like, but that's from 1982, and that is Johnny Clegg and Scatterings of Africa. I think that is one he's.
Yeah, that's Juluka. I have that. I have Scatterlings as well, and that was his earlier iteration, and then later when he's changed up with some of the musicians he was performing with. That's when they changed the name to Savuka from Juluka. But yeah, Juluka was the first one I ever heard on cassette. And that would have been like 1984 or somewhere around there. I remember hearing that. And, quite by accident, because I was living in the mountains of New Mexico. And these people had it on cassette and were let me listen to it. And so the next time I got into Santa Fe, I bought the cassette so that I could have it. So,
well, I think it's a good. I heard very little about him, but the little I've heard, I've liked.
Yeah, it is. It's good stuff. I have that. Yeah, I have Scatterlings and I have Stand Your Ground as well. So yeah, I've got the 3 records by from that Johnny Clegg was involved in. So okay, James, what are you up with?
Well, I have 2 left, and it was a toss up. Which one am I going to show next? I mean, I was going to save this one for last, but I said I'm too excited. I have to show it right away because
Right.
this is a really good one. Well, we started with Cowboy Junkies, who are a Canadian band from Timmins, Ontario. So now we're going to go all the way to Vancouver for another Canadian artist, and I guess you can guess who this person is. This is her debut album, but my version is the 1988, 1989 version because the original 1988 one
I can guess.
was this one, but this came out in '88. Her debut album, Sarah McLaughlin, Touch.
Oh, I was going to say Celine Dion. All right.
No,
That's what I thought.
She did only one single that year. She won the Eurovision Song Contest.
and the famous song on here is Vox, but my favorite song is Ben's song. This is the song that got me into her. I was watching Much Music one day, and they had a spotlight on Sarah McLaughlin, and it was Ben's song. I said, "Who's this singing?" I said, "I like her voice, I like her style, and I like her lyrics. I like the way she writes songs." And one of my favorite lines that she does in a song on her album "Fumbling Towards Ecstasy" is, "Into the sea of waking dreams, I follow without pride." I think that's such a beautiful line. So I'm a big, huge fan of Sarah McLaughlin, and I've seen her 6 or 7 times in concert.
There is and I have it on, I know I have it on CD. Maybe I don't know if I'll try and find it, but there is a dance mix, house dance mix of a Sarah McLaughlin song that is, she has a very ethereal voice, and but then you have this ethereal voice with this pumping bass, and God, I should.
Is it her album Rarities and B-Sides?
Well, I don't know what album it is.
I have Rarities and B-Sides.
Because it's a dance mix that I have. So it might take, if I find it out, it might take me a minute to get to it.
Because now you got me curious what it is.
While I go through this here, John, what have you got?
Okay, I picked Fugazi, 1988. This is like a 7-song EP on Discord also. Actually, no, I didn't show Discord. But this was the guys from Minor Threat, and this is when, like, the 80s, if you were underground, hardcore really ruled the underground more so than punk in the 80s. And this would be one of the first, I guess I'd call it post-hardcore. And it's just brilliant musicianship. You start to have time shifts and got away from just the straight chords noise of hardcore, but it kept the excitement. And it's just a brilliant, brilliant record. Anyone who's my age, who was like anywhere from 15 to 20 in this era, this was just a groundbreaking, especially Waiting Room and Bulldog Front, just the sound of modern punk rock, modern hardcore. We're breaking new ground, and it's something exciting. And a lot of bands that followed after, like the Tool, and not stuff that I'm into, but bands that start getting more angular and changing time signatures in the late 80s, early 90s. This is one of the first records of that style. It's the equivalent of what Gang of Four and Joy Division did to punk, Fugazi did to hardcore, if that makes sense.
I have a Fugazi album, and I'm gradually picking up more, when I see them, because I do. I can't remember the one that I have though. I'd have to go look it up, and it's in my punk. I file it with punk, and it's
that's what I file with punk. Yeah.
But yes, I do like them, and you're right. It's I could file it probably in some other section of my collection, but it just seems most appropriate to go there.
Definitely punk. It's definitely in the punk umbrella. It's just if you're into the genre, the micro genre, I'd call it post-hardcore. It's hard to explain,
Yeah, and it's good stuff. I really like that. And the Sarah McLaughlin song, I found it. It's a mix of her song "I Love You." I don't know what it was released on.
That's on Surfacing.
But that's on my one of my peak hour dance CDs from. This is 2000. They had a bunch. These were like so expensive when I bought them. All right, these are continuous mix CDs. They were nearly $30 each. Okay,
Wow.
and they got like 80 minutes of music on there. Great dance house. Now you could pick them up in Discogs for like $1. Just they did not hold up well in terms of the resale value. All right. Well, Jorgen, what you got? You're looking so pensive.
I'm going to make Zeb and Christopher's day even brighter by another album that they think will be fantastic. No
All
irony.
right. Passive aggression.
Oh my God.
No irony intended at all. I'm taking the synthesizer music wasn't all that big in 1988. There were two bands that you could count on, and one of them were Pet Shop Boys, who released Introspective, who was a remix album. Normally, I would say that remix albums are definitely not my thing. I'm a radio edit guy. But when it comes to Pet Shop Boys, it's one of the few bands that I think that I can listen to mixes, because they are always doing so well-made remixes that it's worth listening to, almost like a song of its own. So it's fantastic. This is the album that also had some hits: Left to My Own Devices, Domino Dancing. You also have It's All Right, and they're doing their own version of Eight Wonders hit I'm Not Scared. So it would be a little shame not to pick Introspective and Pet Shop Boys, actually.
I do like some Pet Shop Boys. So, although I only have one on vinyl, and I want to get. We talked about this last week. I want to get Very on, but maybe I'll get it on CD. I don't know, but I do like that. And I've seen them live, and it was a great show. So that was really quite sweet to see them.
I haven't seen them live, but I have live DVDs by them.
Yeah, they wore some like really bizarre space costumes that kind of look like some kind of robotic toy. But the but the light show was pretty fantastic. All right, so when I think the cover photo on this is what sold me. I'd never heard of Michelle Shock before. And, I was just browsing in the CD section. This was when I was living in Bozeman, Montana. And I saw this and I thought, I got to get this. I don't know. I have no idea what it is, but I'm going to get it. And, man, this is a solid album all the way through. I mean, to me, it's a 5, 5 out of 5. All the way through. Every single song is a good one. So it's got, it's folk music with kind of a punk attitude to it, with a little bit of maybe a tinge of rockabilly thrown in. It's just a really amazing sound and orchestration. And then of course, the photo,
yeah, that's a classic album cover without a doubt.
Yeah, and then I finally, ended up getting it on vinyl. I was trying to quickly look up the the photograph was from the San Francisco Examiner at a protest at the 1984 Democratic National Convention. They closely cropped it to show her So that's her face in the photo, Michelle Schock, but it's not her in the original photo. So
Was that 68? Did you say was that the 68 Democrat convention? The one in Chicago?
It was the 1984.
Oh, 84. Sorry. I didn't
in San Francisco.
Okay.
Because you can see on the police officer, it says San Francisco PD on his shoulder badge. So that shows up. But yeah, I didn't realize it. I thought it was like her, but no, what they did is they cropped her face, onto it. But yeah, really solid record, solid songs, good recording, and a really nice variety. And she's a great storyteller. I know she, in the last year or so, did some really kooky things and put herself in the news over some weird shit that she did. But I really like her music. I still want to get. There's one more record of hers that I want to get on vinyl that I had on CD, but I don't have anymore. And now the name of that record is escaping me. It was the one that came out a year or so after Short Sharp Shot. Arkansas Traveler. That's it. Arkansas Traveler. That's the one I want to get on vinyl. So, all right. Well, then you've got one more, James. Huh?
Yep. Sad to say, I got my last album, and yes, it's a soundtrack, but it's not a DVD. Don't worry, it's an actual CD. So we got Imagine John Lennon. And this is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. I'll have to read this because it's kind of small. Real Love, Twist and Shout, Help, In My Life, Strawberry Fields Forever, Day in the Life, which is one of my all-time favorite songs. Revolution, The Ballad of John Yoko, Julia, Don't Let Me Down, Give Peace a Chance. How, Imagine Rehearsal, God, Mother, Stand By Me, Jealous Guy, Woman, Beautiful Boy, Just Like Starting Over, and of course, the title track, Imagine. And here's some pictures in here. And if you didn't know, John's my favorite Beatle. There's John and Yoko.
He tends to be the favorite Beatle of a lot of Beatle fans. I mean,
there's just something about him. I can't put my finger on it why I like him so much. And that's it.
Cool. I remember seeing that movie in the theater in '88.
Yeah, it's on the theater too. I also have it on DVD as well.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, but that scene where they're in the bed, John and Yoko are in the bed. That just aggravated me as a kid. Like, I don't know. It made me feel like, because I was like more like punk and they just look like, and I don't want to knock John Lennon because I'll be in the minority, but it just made me like conceited or like rock starish attitude with staying in bed. Yet we have the servants and there's photos where you see them getting out of the bed and the maid's remaking the bed and she's like this working class woman, and I couldn't accept that as a kid. Like, I don't know. It just
tension that was.
It made.
I guess you have to be of a certain age to understand what's going on.
Yeah, it just looked like a show to me. But that's my thing. I don't want to knock John.
You know, John, what John said when he saw Yoko naked for the first time.
What?
No, no. Here we go.
Oh no!
All right, moving on.
Okay, so one of my favorite bands and one of the most important bands to me of the 80s is the Butthole Surfers. And they started out... Oh, did you do this earlier?
No, I haven't,
okay.
But some of these I wait in case somebody else does it. So.
Oh, okay, sorry. But they were Texas, like, off the hardcore scene, and they were noisy, experimental, very, like, violent. Not violent, but, like, very aggressive sounding and LSD influenced. And they started getting more crazy and avant-garde, and they put out 3 records: Psychic Powerless, Another Man's Sack, Locust Abortion Technician, and then Hairway is Steven. And this is at their peak. They just went up at their peak of the most experimental, bizarre sounds, acid trip records. And after this, they kind of went more rock, alternative sound, heavy. They still stayed weird, but this is their height, those 3 albums, and this is the last one of that trio. And it's just brilliant. I saw them on this tour. and I'd still put it in the top 5 best shows I ever saw. It was just absolutely ludicrous, like nuts. But Butthole Surfers.
I have it also, right. So they're well, I guess it got to a point where some promoters were like really reluctant to book them into their club because they never knew what they were going to do or how the crowd was going to react to them. But this one too, I think, people talk about, or some of the reviews that I've read, they talk about how they are taking the different styles of different rock bands and then doing their own thing with them. I mean, the whole thing, Hairway to Steven, all right? So there is a song on here that you can hear them distorting and mocking Led Zeppelin. They're playing and they do that with like a Jimi Hendrix style of a song. They do that with there's a song on here that's kind of like, I can hear it's the Doors that they're targeting, you know? And so this one kind of like got pegged as that's what they were doing. But I think a lot of their material was very much like that.
Yeah, on the Locan Abortion Technician, the opening track is called Sweat Loaf, and it's a spoof off Black Sabbath's Sweet Leaf, where he speaks in the middle, but it goes in this echo where it repeats, just like the cough in the beginning of Black Sabbath's Sweet Leaf, and it's the riff, but like sped up at 45, played at a different speed. It's like and it's a spoof of Sabbath. It's brilliant. But I also want to say there's no songs on this. There's no song titles. Every song is a symbol. So if you look at it, there's no songs. Like you got a cigarette, a syringe, you got a caribou taking a poop. It's all the influences thrown into an LSD blender, and brilliant.
It is. I just when I first started listening to Butthole Surfers, I was like, my God, how did I miss these guys? That I wasn't listening to them, and then to miss seeing them. Although I'm sure it would have been a very risky show to go to.
And as you were saying, like the promoters and stuff, I saw them in 1990, and they were on the marquee, but it just said the Surfers. And Gibby the singer's out, and it's all like acid noise. They call us the Surfers, and it's echoing, and like they wouldn't put Butthole up there on the marquee,
I've heard of them, but on the other hand, it's hard to forget when you're having such a weird band name.
Yeah, they from the get go. I mean, even his name, Gebby Haynes, kind of a mockery of Gabby Haynes or whatever.
Gabby. His name's Gibby, but as the cowboy or the old Western character actor,
and going on stage with like underwear on his head and just doing all kinds of
setting his hair on fire. Like it was crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. I think the first time I ever heard them was actually the later album when they did that. It's the one on the cover, this guy sticking the pencil in his ear.
Yeah, Electric Larryland.
Yeah, Electric Larryland.
Which is Electric Ladyland, the same kind of thing you were saying.
I mean, I like that album, but that's definitely beyond their peak. And then that's when I started going back and listening to the other stuff, and I was like, my head can't contain this.
And they never put out a bad record, but that was just their peak, the one we showed.
Right. Oh yeah. All right. Okay. Well, Jorgen, what do you got for us? I know you got more.
Yeah. Now I have.
I have more too.
A 45. The reason why I don't show an album is because I don't think they released an album under this name. But it is a classic that always put a smile on my face when I hear it, because it is so amazing, funny, and is so really, really great. I'm talking about the Time Lords, Doctor in the
Closet. Oh, that's a good one, man.
Time Lords, who will later become a KLF. And this is a song that they have ripped from a Gary Glitter song. And in my opinion, this is far better than the original. But I really, really like the beat. I like the total nut stuff. I like the experimental, total unpredictable, and I like the refrain, Doctor Who, Doctor Who. I think this is such an amazing, amazing song that has been a little bit forgotten after KLF's original success, but I think it's worth lifting up again.
Joel,
Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say I DJ'd the other night in a bar. I have a DJ gig now once a month, but I played that as the opening track for my second set, and it just goes over because it got samples of Gary Glitter, The Sweet, and everyone recognizes the sounds if they don't remember the song, and it's just fantastic. And the Doctor Who soundtrack, brilliant single.
I have to get some KLF because I'm just not that familiar with them. But I don't know where to start with them, but I'll figure it out.
The 12-inch is great too.
Which one?
He's DJH mentioned the 12-inch, but that's got like different takes of the same song, just done differently. It's really good.
It's interesting when they performed this song. I think it was at Top of the Pops or something else. They had Gary Glitter himself coming down and singing the refrain. Leaves a little different, better taste today, but still the single itself is amazing without Gary Glitter's performance.
Well, there's that shop that is like a 10-minute walk or less away from me here in Chicago called Gramophone Records. They have pretty much they specialize in dance and trance and house music and 12-inch singles. So if there's a 12-inch Time Lords, maybe I'll be able to find one there. So, well, really changing and switching gears from that one, going to some, I guess you could call it some more folk music because I was with the Michelle Shock, but the Proclaimers.
Oh, yeah.
This is one that I picked up on cassette, and there was actually two. There was another one that was released maybe the year after or something like that. I used to have that on cassette, but this is just really amazing. Amazing songs, amazing singers, the brothers, singer-songwriting, great songs, and some of them very political. It's always kind of funny because they had that hit. I'm going to be 500 miles. I'll walk 500 miles and then I'll walk 500. You look at Scotland. You can't walk 500 miles anywhere in a straight line. They're going to have to go in circles. So it was just kind of a funny thought about that. But really good, definitely really good songs. And I've always really. I played the hell out of it when I had it then, and then I hadn't listened to it for like years, and then I saw it in the store. Maybe this was maybe a year ago, and I went, "Wow, yeah!" Picked that up and started listening to it again. So this is a promo copy. So it's one of those promo copies where they put the stamp on. But it's actually it's a white label promo, so because it says on the label, so very nice condition, which you can generally count on good ones with the promo copies. Most DJs don't abuse the records that they get, but yes, the Proclaimers. Now we're talking.
Proclaimers in. Normal doses. The problem is that they sing the same style as Midnight Oil. Yeah, that's very big.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you were talking about that, they've got that Scottish brogue. Okay,
yeah, but I do like 500 Miles. I like Sunshine and Leaf. I think those are great songs. So in normal doses, they can be good. It wouldn't sell for an entire album, but the singles are good.
Like that one line. And if I heather. I'll be heathering, or I know that I'll be heathering with you. I'm like, what the hell is heathering?
500 miles and I will walk 500 more.
Oh, that's all right. That's good. All right. So, James, you're out of stuff. All right, so John, what do you got going on?
I'm not saying this is an important record, but I got this in '88, and I don't know a lot about this band, but I go with this Leibach "Let It Be," which was the Beatles album, and it's like German, and it kind of reminds me of that. Like, I don't really know who their influence, but it reminds me of the Kraftwerk, this very militant style and look they had, and it's like they do Get Back, it's all like Beatles tracks. And it sounds like they're at almost 16 speed, like slowed down, like the Swans or something. And it was just a cool record. And I never saw them live. And this is the only Leibach record. I think this is the only Leibach I have. But my friend saw him, and the opening act was a guy in a military, like an old German military uniform, and he just brought logs on stage and chopped wood for like 20 minutes. It was just splitting logs, and that was the opening act. And this is like that, has that feel of later the industrial bands would kind of have. It's hard to explain, but it's just kind of crazy. I don't know what you want to call it, punk rock, but
they're from Slovenia.
Slovenia, okay.
Yeah, I've heard their version of Across the Universe.
I think they
So
were.
you say really slow, so they're like
they're
really
heavy, like Jojo was a man who thought he was a woman, but it's heavy and it's sludgy, and they're guys that look all like very, very nice, clean haircuts, and they're doing it almost in a robotic fashion. Yeah, like Typo Negative. I see that. I don't know enough about the industrial era, but you'd see that same thing where everyone would wear like tight leather or tight uniforms and have their banging, kettles and stuff, like real industrial. But Leibach was one of the first times I saw that. It's not rock and roll anymore. It's getting a little weird.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Weird is good. All right. I'm going to have to actually write them down because that's something it's odd enough that I want to check it out.
Yeah, I think Let It Be was their biggest album because it was the cover of at least in America, because it was the cover of the Beatles. But check it out online anyway, and picture it be in 1988. It was pretty wild.
I heard that Let It Be version, and I'm not a huge fan of Beatles version, but that was horrible. Sorry to say that, all Leibach fan, but I heard him listening to his growling.
I wonder what Paul and George and Ringo thought of that album.
Yeah, well, they probably never heard it. Wouldn't surprise me. All right, so Jorgen.
There were two members of the Go-Go's that had a huge success this year. One went very well, Belinda Carlisle. The other one was fell into obscurity way too fast. I have 3 albums by her, and they are really great, actually. They are very underrated. I'm talking about Jane Wiedlin and the album Fur, that I think is really, really great. I like Belinda Carlisle.
She looks like Suzanne Plachette.
Who?
Suzanne Plachette.
I do not know who that is.
Actress.
Okay. Big hit here is Rush Hour, was a minor hit, but then really great song. I like the title track, Inside a Dream, another single that is really, really great. It is really relaxing pop music, a bit from Go-Go's, a bit from Belinda Carlisle, but a lot of easy pop music. And I think Jane Wiedlin is sadly underrated from the Go-Go's. I think this should be a way bigger success than it became. But it's great.
And Jorgen, did you know that she played Joan of Arc in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
No, I had no idea she had done actress works.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one, okay. As we go, let's say we're approaching the 2-hour mark, and I've still got a few records to go through. But this next one here is kind of it was released in 1988, and it's kind of what would you call an homage. So it's called the Mingus Dynasty. So it is a compilation of musicians that played with Charlie Mingus. And so they did this kind of like a memorial or tribute album to him. And they've got songs on here that, from releases that they did. So like the Eye of the Hurricane Sue, Cecilia Isabel's Table Dance, that's from the Tijuana. What's that? I have that album. I mean, I've got a bunch of Charlie Mingus. But so yeah, it's all musicians that played with them or played with Mingus, and so they got together and they recorded this in '87, and then it was released in '88. So you've got Randy Becker on trumpet, Jimmy Nepper on trombone, James Newton on flute, Craig Handy on tenor sax, Roland Hanna on piano, Reggie Johnson on bass, Danny Richmond on drums, on all compositions except for one in which you have Kenny Washington on drums. He's on the song Diane. But yeah, they're all Charlie Mingus songs that they did. And I can't remember if they released any other records, doing homages to Charlie Mingus. But it's good stuff. Just happened to see it in a store one time, and I like Charlie Mingus. He's one of my favorite jazz musicians and composers, and so I picked that up. And very, very, it was cheap too. And it was have been very, very happy with it.
Cool. Ed had a question. Lou Soloff on that record?
I'm
In
sorry,
the
what?
Peanut Gallery. Ed in the Peanut Gallery had a question. He was asking if Lou Soloff was on that. I don't know
Lou
who that
Soloff
is.
is not. And he's not part of the production team either. So, yeah, he's not on that. Interesting label, though. I just happened to see there's this Soul Note label. I guess I should make myself big again. It's kind of a cool looking label. Hello, mouse. Respond to me. So I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting. Soul Note is the label. All right. What's up there, John?
This isn't an important record, but I was big into the Sisters of Mercy and the spin-off band The Mission, or The Mission UK in America. And this is their second LP, Children. Not their best, but I mean, it's still really good. This was produced by John Paul Jones, and it's not goth, but it's definitely I don't know what you want to, that 80s, British, gothy rock and roll, and they were
New wave
just-
rock. New wave rock.
Yeah.
I would.
What would you call them?
New wave rock.
Yeah, I don't know if they're too new wavy. They're very guitar based, 12-string electric, and very Zeppelin influenced, but not in a heavy rock way. But Beatles and psychedelic, but really, really cool band. And this one came out in '88, so I pulled it just because I thought of it right away. But Children. But I love the first album, the compilation of their singles called The First Chapter, the B-sides, and Butterfly on a Wheel. It really good.
I agree. I hope to get hold of that album one day, because I also love the first album, God's Own Medicine.
Yeah, that's an excellent album.
Wasteland, such an amazing single. So I definitely have for the past 5 years.
And they would do interesting. They wore their classic rock roots on their sleeves, kind of like the Sisters of Mercy did. So they would cover like a Hurricane, Neil Young, Tomorrow Never Knows, the Beatles, Wishing Well by The Free, and it's just kind of cool to get that, like from that Echo and the Bunnymen kind of feel, but with the classic rock influence, into Dylan and stuff.
I think Jan at Vinyl Kicks 86 is right. Gothic rock is the way to say it.
Yeah, but they're not doomy or Bauhausy. They're very more happy feeling, but Gothic rock.
Yeah.
A couple months ago, I was in my local record store, and somebody had just unloaded a collection, because that's when I saw the Nurse with Wound records that I didn't buy, and of course never can see again. But they had a bunch of Sisters of Mercy that this collector had, and was there. Didn't buy. I bought the Cabaret Voltaire, but I didn't buy any of the others. So, all right, Jorgen.
Now, everybody who think I'm too commercial, Yes, again, we can get commercial.
Wait, you commercial?
This is an album that has nostalgia for me because I bought the cassette version of this back in 1989 and I listened to it multiple times, so it's nostalgia for me. But I think I think this is a great one. I like it. It was a great year for Kim Wilde and the album Close. Kim Wilde going more into disco than she did in the previous albums, but she had a really down period in the mid-'80s after the successful first albums. But this was a really great comeback with the singles like Never Trust a Stranger and You Came. And this is a great disco album. Nothing more, nothing less. I think this is, and Kim Wilde has a great voice and great songs. I think this is a great, great album.
Kim Wilde, I do not know.
That's
You never heard Kim
she had the
Wilde?
big hit. Kids in America was a big hit in the early '80s.
Yeah,
She's
1981.
it was big in America, but she was a bigger artist in England. She was Marty Wilde's daughter. Marty Wilde was the first rock and roll star of England before Cliff Richard, and he's still like a big legend over there. And there was also the brother. The brother cut some glam rock songs. What was it?
Ricky Wilde.
Ricky Wilde. Yes, he was a little kid and he cut singles in the early '70s.
And he produces her. He is
but
her producer.
They're much more famous in England, the Wildes, you know. But
Okay.
Yeah, that I might say.
All right. Well,
there's-
this one.
there's no doubt you haven't heard "Kids of America." If you heard that song, you'd say, "Oh, I remember this." It was big, like
Yeah, I probably
Kids
will.
of America.
Yeah, it doesn't ring a. Your absolutely fantastic rendition of that, Jorgen, didn't quite click a memory with me.
Yeah.
I like to say, I heard what you're saying. Now, how goes the melody?
yeah.
All right, this next one, I had this on CD when it was released, and then I didn't listen to it for a long time. Again, saw it in the store, so I picked it up. The Smithereens, Green Thoughts, New Jersey band, I think, and they had this album had several radio hits on it. Only a Memory, Houses We Used to Live In, Especially for You was a hit on the radio. And they had a couple other records, but I don't know. This one definitely caught my ear. Their other stuff really didn't catch me as strongly as this did. It was that kind of jangle pop that was really, everybody was doing it, and there was a lot of it out there, and so some of it was getting to be a little just too much of it, I guess. There wasn't a lot of variety to it, but you got it as well. But I really like
Only Memory is such an amazing song.
Yeah, that is, and it's an opener, so that's a really strong opener for the record. And then Green Thoughts, is a pretty good closer for the album as well. So I got it on the Rainbow Capital label. Is that what you got, Jorgen?
Enigma.
Oh, okay. Not that I know anything about the pressing provenance of this recording. I guess some people lump them in kind of an REM wannabe band.
If my internet provider wouldn't have been troubling when you showed 1986, I would have shown a Smithereens. I had it picked out, not the Smithereens album from that year. I'm a huge fan of Smithereens. I think they're amazing band. I have a lot of albums with them.
Oh, interesting. All right. I haven't really listened to anything by them, so other than that record. So, but I never see it.
Behind the Walls of Sleep, amazing song from 1986.
Behind the Walls of Sleep. Gosh, that kind of sounds familiar. Anyway, John.
Okay, I'm gonna go with a heavy metal record, even though I was a big metalhead growing up, and I kind of 87. Slayer's Rain and Blood was the last great heavy metal record at the time, and I still kind of think of that as like the landmark between the first Sabbath and the last, and led by Slayer, and it kind of faded out of metal come '88 because it just started breaking into more thrash or death or different genres, and it no longer had the magic to me. But I was obviously getting older and into different stuff. But in 1988, Slayer put out the South of Heaven record, and this was a little departure from Slayer. It slowed down. Tom Araya is starting to sing a little more, and I didn't like it. I liked the record, but it became, as the years went on, this is a way better record than I thought. But this is like the last hurrah of, I mean, there's always going to be heavy metal records, good ones coming out, but this is the last hurrah of like the 80s metal to me. Like all the bands started going down at that point. But great record, 1988, South of Heaven. And it's on Def Jam Records.
Completely unfamiliar with, I mean, I know of Slayer. But yeah, and I can remember that we had, that school I used to work at, there were quite a few kids who were definitely Slayer fans at that time. But yeah, I just don't remember anything by them. My next record, it's because
it's violent thrash, you know,
yeah,
violent thrash metal. If you're not into it, you're not into it. But if you were a metalhead and you started with Iron Maiden, like, and you start progressing, like each one of these bands was getting crazier and pushing the line in the metal community, or, you know, it was exciting and new, but after a certain point you hit the wall.
Yeah And sometimes the vocals with some of the bands, it's musically I like what they're doing, but then the vocals, it's
you can't come in on Slayer. You had to have started with like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and gone through the years. You can't, that's not a good entry point.
Right. All right, Jorgen.
I'm going with some indie pop light, maybe you can call it. A band that is so forgotten today. I think they're British, and they're called The Bible. And I heard back in 1988 on a Swedish radio show the single Crystal Palace, and I thought it was a really, really great song. Discovered again, and now as older, and I found this record, Eureka, which that song is on, and I was thinking, well, I'll give it a chance, see if it's just as good as this single. And sometimes it isn't, but in this case, it definitely is up to my expectation, because this is a really great album with some guitar indie pop light, and it's really, really great one. The Bible, Eureka.
So when you say indie pop light, I mean, I kind of know what you're talking about, because there are some bands that I would probably classify as indie pop light, and I do like them, you know, maybe like the Jayhawks or somebody like that. You know, I don't know if that's the right category.
I haven't heard Jayhawks hardly at all, so I wouldn't know.
Again, it's kind of, even the Moondoggies the Moondoggies are a little more psychedelic than that. But anyway,
maybe a kind of a little happier REM maybe at the time.
Okay. Interesting title for a record, The Bible. So
yeah, it's the name of the band.
For a band, okay. All right. The Bible according to Little Richard. All right, so let me do here. I got a heavy metal one that I pulled out. Justice for All. You know, Metallica is a band I appreciate, and it's not something I listen to very much, but I do appreciate very much what they were doing at the time. And with this particular album, the reason, I've told this story a million times, Stunty's probably not in the peanut gallery anymore, but he would roll his eyes and say, "Oh God, we're going to hear this story again." But because of this private school that I was working at the time, they, you know, I was just doing this like inspirational presentation or whatever, and I was talking about a bunch of books. I was donating to the school's library, and I was highlighting a couple of the books. And one of the books that I was highlighting was Dalton Trumbo's Johnny Got His Gun. And so I was talking about the storyline, and Judd, oh yeah, Stumpy's here, so he's going to roll his eyes. He's heard this story before. Yeah, I'm rolling. So I was telling the storyline, and then after the presentation, that's when this kid came up to me and he says, Rich, Metallica has a song about this book. And I'm like, oh, really? So we went over to his cabin. The students lived in cabins, and he played it, and it was like, yeah, they sure do. That's the story. So, and that's the song One, which is on side 2. It's a 4-sided double album. So that was, it was pretty interesting to kind of my first introduction, that I really kind of dismissed Metallica as just another heavy metal band. And then I started listening to them, and I began to realize that there was a lot more to them than, a bunch of power chords and whatever, that there were some thoughtful songs that were going on. So I really appreciated if it weren't for that kid and telling me about that, I probably would still be very dismissive about. Although the album that everybody hates of Metallica, the one with Enter Sandman, I do like that one.
Let's just say that I say
that was the record I dropped Metallica. I wouldn't buy that record, because I started with the first album. Actually, I started with the Ride the Lightning and Master Puppets, and then got the first album. But they were like, that's when they got big and started, like, I considered as a 16-year-old or whatever, they were selling out, and the album just wasn't rocking enough for me. It was like too long intros, bad production, and
let's just say,
and they made a video. Like, there's all these rules you had as a kid.
Metallica is one of the bands that I hate the most. I can't stand James Hetfield's voice. I can't stand their dark style, their dark metal. I definitely, every time Metallica is played, I throw myself on the radio.
Yeah, Jorgen, I can't tell you how important they were to us. These guys who just wore jeans and concert shirts and sneakers. When you're coming from the heavy metal world and everyone has to be dressed up and leather and spikes and stuff, and you would just look like us and all our friends.
I have understood that Metallica at time changed the metal world from the big hairs and the power rock style into something more.
No, I don't know, because the big hair got big as Metallica. The big hair was huge in 87, 88.
Let's just say that I'm wrong person to discuss heavy metal, but especially not Metallica. I have a hard time listening to. It's one of the bands that I loathe the most.
Metal is not for everybody. And then this is the last record I pulled, and it's just for me telling a story. It's not great, but this is the Guns N' Roses Lies. This is their acoustic EP, and then it had their first EP. But just to tell the story about Guns N' Roses, I hated all that glammy metal, the Poisons, which was a little later, and all that stuff, the Motley Crues and Rats and stuff. But Guns N' Roses were really an underground band, and they got respect more through the punk and underground scene than they did through the glam metal. The teenage girls were the last to catch up, except for the ones, in the LA area. But my friend bought me Appetite for Destruction because I didn't want it just by the look. I said, this is more that glam metal. But he was a skinhead into like reggae and hardcore. And he said, no, man, you need to hear this record. And this is now in 87 or whenever that album came out. And then I dug it. And they were very much had a punk rock, an authentic rock and roll, Aerosmith, Hanoi Rocks kind of attitude. And that was a brilliant record, Appetite for Destruction. Took a year or two, or at least a year before it broke to the masses. There was still the underground kids. Their first New York show was playing at CBGB's, the record store next door, the OMFUG record store, and it was full with hardcore kids and some metalheads. But they put out that record, and then they put out this EP of acoustic stuff, which I still think is really excellent. And then they kind of turned to crap. They definitely turned to crap. But this was the height of a really good rock and roll band, and they lost it after. But this was true rock and roll.
The
mainstream as it is now, you know.
yeah, the so yeah, Star Power. You know, I had the question about, oh, is that this? Okay, the inner sleeve. Okay, but it's a censored one, not an uncensored.
Yeah, not uncensored.
Okay.
I have the uncensored LP, you know, the original cover.
If it was uncensored, I don't think he would have pulled it out now.
I had no idea what it was, to be honest. This is the first time I pulled this record out in way over a decade.
The
2 decades.
Yeah, I remember. You know, there was something about with their first record that intrigued me about Guns N' Roses, and they sparked some interest in me, and I especially liked Slash's appearance on Iggy Pop's Brick by Brick. I really liked what he was doing on that record, but yeah, they self-destructed so quickly that I just never went back to try and buy anything by them. So
I wish I could say that I'm a hater of Guns N' Roses, but they have some great ballads that I actually do like. Then I can discuss William with Axl Rose. Boy, he sounds like a Mickey Mouse with the flu when he sings. But there are songs that I can't stand with them, but there are also songs that I really like. I like November Rain, for example.
I don't know if this is reinstating the bass or whatever, but it is a remastered. You know, the hype sticker on it says it's remastered.
Remastered would be the EQ. They'd need to remix it to bring the bass in. You know, you might be able to boost the bass frequencies, but they mixed the bass out. You know, but that was their decision at the time. But you know, people loved it when it came out. It's just looking back. Well, I didn't, but people did. It was huge.
Yeah.
But looking back, I think we say, it was a badly produced record.
And that happens.
Yeah.
Jorgen, did we do you already? Or no? Sometimes I forget where we are.
I picked a band more British, and this is a band that released some really great albums in the mid-'80s. In 1988, they picked away the synthesizers, like many, but they also still was really great. I'm talking about the Adventures, some British pop, acoustic, new wave-ish pop style. And this is a really great album, The Sea of Love, containing a great song that was a minor hit called Broken Land, that has a lot of Scottish style in the music, Scottish folklore style. I think this is a very beautiful and really fantastic produced, fantastic melodies, really relaxing to listen to. So highly recommended, The Adventures, Sea of Love.
Okay. Now I only have 2 more to show, and then I'm going to be out. So if you got another one, Jorgen, you want to show before?
Well, then I can do a couple. Then you take yours, and then I can do my last couple.
Oh, okay. All right. You're working for airtime, I see. All right.
It was an album mentioned in the Peanut Gallery before that they said that this was an awful record, and of course, then I like it. It's that way it goes. If the Peanut Gallery hates it, I like it. Duran Duran's Big Thing. I think this is a very underrated album. I'm not going to say that it's Duran Duran's best album, but it is an underrated album with some really great songs, and I think this might be one of their even final really great album, because in the 90s, unfortunately, they were, with some singles exceptions, they had headed down, but this is actually underrated, really great album.
Jorgen, who was left in the band at that point? Was it still the original 5, or were they down to the 3? I can't remember. They kept changing.
I think there were they 3, and I think that Warren Cocorolo had been entering. No,
Because I know there's a record with just like Simon, Nick, and maybe Roger. I can't remember.
Simon, Nick, and John.
Simon and John, that's what it was. Yeah.
Roger had quit music business, I think. He was the one in Power Station. And I have also a cassette. As I said, synth pop wasn't that big, and I mentioned that there were two bands who were the exceptions. My breathing holes. One was Pet Shop Boys, and the other one was Erasure. And this is The Innocents from 1988. The Erasure were still a band that had some successful selling. And Little Respect, Ship of Fools. This is a very nice, airy synth pop production that I really like. And, yeah, you can go ahead if you want to.
Oh, if you got another one, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
But I wanted to say that I really like, probably this was afterward, the Erasure, I Say, and then the eponymous one that they released a few years after. I just love that. I have it on CD, but I just love the it's that one that's like a continuous, stream of music, solar, whatever. I can't remember the song. I just love that album.
I can show two more, and then I have a bunch of soul albums that I can take finally. Roxette, of course, would be stupid not to show Look Sharp with a look, and Just for Success, and Listen to Your Heart and all the hits. But it is a great album, a little overplayed, but still a really, really great Swedish pop album.
Yep,
I remember Roxette.
Yeah, she was big.
Bangles, Everything, with the gorgeous Susanna Hoffs doing what she does best, sing. And In Your Room, Eternal Flame, that is a 1989 hit, but and Be With You, also 1989 hit, but great album. I really like Bangles. So now you can take your.
All right. So yeah, my last two are. Now last week I was showing. Which REM did I show last week? Document, was that it?
Yep. Document.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the REM that I started with because I had, the compilation eponymous, and for years and years and years, I basically felt like I didn't need, anything else. And so this is when I started collecting REM. And definitely, again, another really excellent album in terms of its, a thematic album in terms of, holding everything together. The other songs, some of these songs, though, Orange Crush was a great one that got a lot of play. But I remember, like World Leader, Pretend, Stand was another big hit. But then, The Wrong Child was such an amazing song. The whole concept of this song of the famous Bubble Boy, and people trying to interact with this child who was born without an immune system, because our environment is so fucked up that, that this kind of thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
Just really amazing song. So yeah, Green is an interesting artwork too. They even did the, the label, the tree rings and the label and that. So, and then it took me years to get a copy of this, and I finally did, and it was in good shape. because this is a record that it's hard to find in good shape, and people tend to ask way too much money for it. Tracy Chapman, her eponymous debut, just what an album, just what incredible songs with Fast Car, talking about a revolution, Behind the Wall. God, just really incredible songwriting. And it just took me so long to get a copy of this. I think I might have had it on cassette at the time. But then, I know some people will hate me because I just like threw away all my cassettes. And I didn't know, this would have been in like early 2000 something. I had no idea what to do with my cassette deck. So I took it to an electronics recycling. Yeah, agreed. Electronic recycling, and just dumped it into this dumpster bin. And it was a Nagamichi. So that cost $400 in like 1980. So God knows what I could have sold, because I had no idea about how vintage audio equipment, was like, people were buying that stuff. I thought, cassettes, man, no one's ever going to start playing or collecting cassettes.
Every car dashboard or car floor was just full of cassettes. No one cared.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
had so many cassettes.
Back seat.
They'd be warped because they were in the car, and
the cases broken. Some no cases.
I had Tracy Chapman cassette copied on a cassette once, and I recorded it over because I thought it was a little bit boring. But the singles are good. The singles are good.
With that Nagamichi, I had made my own recordings on like really high quality, iron oxide tapes and others, and and they just all oxidized, and they were like unplayable, and whatever.
I'm gonna add one in since you guys are going back, but It's not a great record. I don't have it on LP, or at least I can't reach for it. It's CD, but the album cover looks like this. I have all the 12-inch singles, but it was Mark Almond, and it was called The Stars We Are. The cover looks basically like this, slightly different photo, same lettering and stuff. This is a 12-inch single called Bittersweet, but Mark Almond's half of Soft Cell. And Soft Cell, everyone knows from Tainted Love. He's really one of my favorite artists, Mark Almond. Tainted Love was like a massive hit, like a nice poppy new wave hit. And they followed that up with like a song called Sex Dwarf, which is just depraved and crazy. And Soft Cell did the opposite of what most bands do, where they go commercial. Soft Cell went more like dirtier and depraved, and just talking about topics of like transvestites, transsexuals, and heroin and alcoholism and drugs. And it's just great. They'd put out 3 records, and a poppier one and like a dark and evil one, and just debauchery by the 3rd one. And he went solo and kind of goth and cabaret, and I just love his whole career. He's a really interesting, prolific artist. But 1988, he had his most commercial album, which was The Stars We Are, and there's another Bittersweet. Let's see which one this is. Tears Run Rings was a massive kind of poppy commercial hits, but new wavy and like almost easy listening. And he did Something's Got a Hold of My Heart with guest star Gene Pitney, and that was like a massive hit in England. And just because I was really into Mark Almond, and not necessarily the Stars We Are record, although I loved it, but in 88, I was so big into Soft Cell, Mark and the Mambas, and Sisters of Mercy, and it was just very important artist, and I just thought of it being 88.
I have that album, Stars We Are. It's down in the cellar, though. Because I thought it was, I like Mark Almond also, but I didn't think that album was as good as it should. So I have called it away. So it's down in the cellar among the other records.
Yeah, it's an excellent album. It's just not as dark and like cabaret-ish and show tuney as his other.
It's like I said with Tracy Chapman, the singles are good, but the rest of the album was so-so.
I disagree. I think it's an excellent album, but it wouldn't be my starter for Mark Almond. I like Mother Fist.
My favorite Mark Almond album is Tenement Symphony. I like that one.
That's a good record, yeah. But the one he did just a couple years ago, Variete, is probably his best album, which I love that. Like an artist could put out an album 40 years into his career, and it could be the best record. That seldom ever happens.
I have to say,
Yeah.
Sal did a great song with Pet Shop Boys this year.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, a big fan of Mark Almond. You know, he does Russian themed albums. He'll do Jacques Brel. He does whatever he wants. He did a lot of like gay disco stuff in the 2000s. Not that I was into that, but I just always respected what he did, like show tunes.
All right, yeah, I remember definitely "Tainted Love" being the big hit in the clubs, but
Yeah, he's worth
all the different mixes.
Yeah,
So-
worth looking into as a solo artist, man.
All right, Jorgen, bring us home.
I have 5 soul albums left. 88 was the year when soul music was getting very interesting. It had been interesting before also, but it came a lot of great stuff. Chaka Khan came out with CK. And look at this guest star list.
Wow.
Yeah,
Not her best selling though, but still it's a great one. I think it's a lot of it's a cover album. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours, Stevie Wonder songs. It's my party, but it's Chaka Khan. Say no more.
yeah.
And 1988, of course, never forget. Prince, Love Sexy.
Album cover. Every time I see it, I go,
Yeah,
it's like pearl clutching.
Not the best cover album. I
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's
Alphabet Street, you have I Wish You Heaven, some really great songs on this one.
yeah.
Smoother, Anita Baker giving you the best that I got. Really smooth, really relaxing soul. And one of my absolute favorites in soul genre, George Benson, Twice the Love. Complete with his doing singing with the guitar, like Al Giro also does.
Yeah.
Really great and sadly forgotten Al Giro album. And finally, the man, the producer, Narada Michael Walden and Divine Emotion. I don't know if I think it's Narada Michael Walden did the souliest stuff to himself, I think, because this is really funky, especially this single, the title track.
Wow, he can walk into my kitchen, that's for sure.
So that was my complete 1988.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for bringing us all in. Thank you guys for joining today's stream. This was really good. And don't forget that the Gunkles are going to be live at 5:00 Central Time tonight. So
Nice.
we're gonna be lit. Everything's gonna be lit. So we're gonna go. We're gonna
Cool.
go off.
Thanks
the
for
rails.
having me up, Richard.
Yeah,
So,
thank
John,
Good
you.
hanging out with you,
me on,
Jorgen and James.
If you have me on Instagram, message me about Tuesday night, 6:00 Atlantic my time, if you want to be on my Elvis panel with me.
Okay,
All
I'll get
right.
in touch with you,
Because
James.
I need someone with me to talk Elvis.
All right.
And I'm wrong person.
And as always, remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.